Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Emotionally unavailable. Hello, welcome back to Emotionally Unavailable. I'm your host, Malisa Hepner. Appreciate you being here. So for this week, we're going to continue our conversation from the last week's solo episode. Essentially, I'm doing presentations kind of here and there about how connection is vital for our safety and survival, that's the way that we are wired to be, and yet our brains and our subconscious work very hard to keep us disconnected from others because that's what feels safe. Or at least my brain keeps me disconnected. And I think that that's true for a lot of people. Really, I think all of us have avoidant tendencies, and all of us take things personally and overthink things from time to time at the minimum. And at the very least, that does cause some friction, i.e. some disconnection. So I'll stick with what I said. But I can certainly think of several people who that doesn't seem like they would argue with me that they crave connection. And I think that we all do in a certain way, but I also think that it can feel really unsafe for most of us, but maybe some of us only in certain circumstances. For instance, I have a friend who is very loving, very caring, whatever, but the way their subconscious patterns keep them in disconnection is by making emotionally unavailable people or situations that it could never work out romantically be the people that they're attracted to. You know what I mean? So anyway, first of all, we went on a family trip this weekend. If you're new here, my name's Melissa. I have 3 children. I lost one in December to a synthetic opioid overdose. He thought he was buying one thing, bought a manufactured pill with a drug called chlorophene in it, and it killed him immediately. So we found him in our home, his brother and I, and we have struggled through some PTSD symptoms for the last 6 months. So this was our first family trip without him. So we took Corey, our sloth, that he and my other son, Bryson, had custody of because they won him at Dave and Buster's or something years ago. Anyway, so we took him with us. It was with Brian's family, his whole family. He's one of 5 children. He's the oldest. Him, 3 other boys, and then a sister that his parents adopted when she was, I don't know, pretty young. I think within the first year of life, which isn't relevant except for that it's kind of talked about a lot in their family. So anyway, yeah, it was interesting. I was really, really anxious about the dogs before we went because I have 5 dogs, which you should not have 5 dogs, and it's a ridiculous amount of dogs. So I was really nervous about it. And the day of, I was just having to do positive visualizations, making positive assumptions. I was doing all the tools, right? Which worked. And I did pretty good of letting it go once I was okay, this is going to be fine. And it really does kind of even tie in this to today's lesson. But anyway, just got home today. I'm exhausted. Need to get this solo episode done. So yeah, I did take a 3-hour nap. That was nice. Okay, so we are talking about connection. And I, started teaching you last week about how our brains do things subconsciously that we are not aware of that keep us disconnected from others. So you guys have heard me say a ton, your brain is a liar, your brain is a liar, your brain is a liar. I'm going to break that down a little bit better because I don't think I can see why it's a statement that very logical people have a hard time with because they're what? So I'm going to break that down to you. So rather than saying your brain is a liar, what I'm going to say is your brain is less interested in accurately perceiving reality than it is in efficiently predicting it. Let that sink in for a second. It is less interested in accurately perceiving reality than it is efficiently predicting it. So what that means is your brain isn't designed to take things in slowly and accurately. It is designed to take things in quickly and efficiently, and it wants to fill in the blanks. So that's what we call muscle memory. That's why so many of the things that we do are automatic without us thinking. So like once you learn to walk, you're not having to like take those hard steps. Imagine a toddler learning how to walk, right? Their steps are very clunky and they fall a lot. Once you figure it out, that's it. Like you don't have to think about it anymore, right? So those are the things it does without thinking. It fills in the blanks in all kinds of ways and goes, yeah, okay, I know how to do that. Which I think sometimes is why we can get in kind of a hurry when someone's telling us something and we start to try to predict what they're saying. I think that's a nervous system response. Honestly, like maybe you're a little dysregulated if it like drives you crazy when you want someone to finish their story quickly and you just start trying to predict it. You know what I mean? That's a side note. I don't know. Okay. Are you listening? Because I really want you to feel the impact of this question, okay? Have you ever gotten a message from someone that says, can we talk? Okay. Pause for dramatic effect. But I can picture my response to that. Like, yes, I've gotten the message and my body's immediately responding. Like, I'm tense, right? So if you got that message, like, how is your body automatically responding? Like, I would say, like, within seconds, your body's probably already decided what that message means. I would like to hear if any of you are well adjusted and don't assume that it means something bad. And actually, I'm thinking about it and I'm not in any situations where I would be afraid of it anymore, but oh my God, it used to be. So it's in the past, if you've gotten this message, or even if you're just picturing, like if your boss or your partner or like your best friend sent you this now, like maybe you're assuming you're in trouble. Maybe that they are upset or like me immediately planning your defense. Like if my boss sent me something like that, like immediately like thinking about what they could possibly be upset about and then already having my answer back. Just, again, your brain's trying to fill in the blanks for you. I worked at a place that this was back when, like, cell phones were still expensive and stuff, and we didn't have, like, a lot of smartphones yet. Like, they were too expensive to own. You had to be, like, wealthy to have them, pretty much. Maybe not, but, like, they weren't that common. Anyway, so we used pagers, and they would send you, if you were getting fired, they would send you a page that said, end your day at the office. And every now and then, maybe 1 out of 70 times, they'd send that just so that they could give you something important or, something like that, because it was my first hospice job. And so you didn't start your day at the office. You'd start like out in the field and go directly to your first patient or whatever. And oftentimes you'd leave from your last patient and go home. So that's why they'd say end at the office, because they'd want to give you something or whatever. Or they were going to fire you. More often than not, they were firing you. So like, yeah, it really freaked us out if we got that message. But we'd sit around and be like, so-and-so got to end your day at the office message. And one time they sent it out to the entire staff instead of the person that they intended to. We were all panicking. And then we all saw each other at a lunch and they were like, da-da-da. Did you get the message? And we're like, oh, we all got it. Okay, it was a mistake. Or maybe that's not how, maybe they ended up sending like, oops, that didn't mean to send that to the all staff or whatever. So we're all like, who's getting fired? Again, we had cell phones, but texting plans weren't unlimited and things like that at the time. So anyway, I just think that's funny because we would freak out when we saw that. But here's what's fascinating. You get a text like that, you start making all these predictions and nothing's actually happened yet, right? Your brain's just filling in the blanks. So I personally do this with the word sure, which I think I told you guys last week. But when I ask somebody to do something and they say sure, I freak out a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't actually want to do it. Again, yeah, I did talk about this last week because I said, like, my brain is looking for any evidence that they don't want to do what I asked them to do, because I have a negative assumption automatically that people don't want to help me. It's not safe to ask for help. So when I do ask somebody for something and then I'm like on alert waiting for them to prove to me that they don't want to do it, i.e., asking for that help wasn't safe, right? So while most of us think that we're reacting to reality, we're actually reacting to our brain's prediction of reality. Has that gotten you in trouble before? Because it's gotten me in a lot of trouble before, because I am reacting immediately. And you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking this, oh my gosh, this is actually making so much sense. I don't know why I haven't figured this part out yet, but until now, I have not realized that, like, sometimes when somebody's saying something, specifically like Brian, and I get very reactive very quickly, it is because it's predicted already what the outcome of this thing that he's saying. I wish I could give you a good example, but this actually happens to me a lot. And I just wanted to say in real time, I'm now realizing I maybe thought it was one thing, and maybe it was, but I really think that's all it is. My brain is already jumping to worst case scenario and I'm pissed. So I'm going to be thinking about that. I'm going to try to chill out and listen more, which that has been one of the skills that I actively do is like, let's just listen instead of just assuming. So yeah, I mean, your brain receives millions of pieces of information every second and it can't consciously analyze all of them, right? So it's got to be, hey guys, it's me. Emotionally Unavailable is produced 100% in-house by me with no team. So if this show has ever helped you and you want to give back, subscribe to the Patreon. There's several different levels with different benefits in each. Check the show notes and you can see what each tier subscription will get you. There's also lots of fun things coming down the pipeline for the Patreon subscribers. So get in early. You can get a workbook, you can buy merch, you can do any of the things, and all of that supports the show to help it keep going. Really appreciate every single one of you. I love you so much and I can't wait to see what we continue to do together. Be like, oh, I know what that means. Thousands of times I've seen this before, it meant this, so I'm going to say this. And it's like, based on everything that's happened before, what's most likely happening now is essentially how our brain works. Predictions save energy. So most of the time, it's a fine adaptation that our brains do for us because you don't consciously calculate how to catch a ball or read facial expressions every time, right? Your brain uses past experiences to make fast guesses. So the problem is that emotional predictions work the same way. I would argue emotions are much less predictable, but whatever. Two people can hear the phrase, can we talk after work? And one person can think, what's the goss? What's the tea? Something's going on in their life. Or even, let me say that in a more compassionate way, or even oh man, I hope they're okay, But then another person can hear that and think, I'm getting fired. Or, oh my God, people have been talking bad about, this is something I'm guilty of. People have been talking bad about me and they're going to tell me about it. Oh my God, that one really got me. I would definitely think that if someone said that. Yeah, I'm just trying to give other examples, but again, the word sure. So the thing I'm trying to identify here is the event is identical. The same thing happened to two people. Someone said, hey, can we talk after work? The prediction was different. So let's say someone's partner says no to sex, right? And they say, I'm tired tonight. One person can say to themselves, they're tired. Too bad. Okay, that sucks. Yeah, they did have a long day. The other partner, another partner could hear, they don't love me anymore. Guilty as charged. Anyway, not anymore, but I did used to be that way. Again, same information, different prediction. So I'm putting it like this so that you understand this is just our brain taking all of the information that it's processed for our own individual lives. This is why I'm constantly saying their shit's about them, your shit's about you. Your brain has been programmed by your specific events in life, right? And now it's predicting all of the time based off the things that you have experienced. This is your whole filter that your brain is sorting through every minute of every day. Theirs is going to be different because their experiences haven't been exactly like yours. That's why communicating is important and communicating from your perspective. Again, I've said this before, but if you're new here, you'll know. I didn't understand what people meant when they said iMessages. And listen, I know other people who didn't either because they'd literally be like, well, I feel like you. That's not it. Communicating from your own perspective really means you taking the accountability and responsibility for the way your brain has filtered the situation. That's the only fair thing. Now, do not act like I'm trying to apply that to every scenario because obviously I'm not. But there are so many in normal, everyday interpersonal relationships that don't have to be that serious, that we can understand, oh, my brain just misperceived something. It mispredicted. I mean, now you understand that. So you understand that likely that's what's happening anytime, there's some conflict or whatever. Maybe not anytime, but oftentimes we'll say. And you'll have that information to move forward. So when you communicate from that place, you can say, it feels like this to me, because that's what it felt like before. And my brain just assumed this because, for instance, if your friend or partner or whoever, someone you're dating, isn't texting back as quickly as you would like, it feels to you like a dysregulation because it dysregulates your nervous system because what? They're mad. They don't care as much about me. Connection to you means the constant touch points that I can get a hold of you at any time. Just the anxious attachment folks, I used to be like that. I used to, feel like you only cared about me if you'd respond to my messages quickly. So anyway, again, same information, different prediction. When you're discussing those things, it's a much healthier conversation for you to take accountability for the emotions behind the experience and say, I am sure that there's probably not truth to this. Maybe there is, whatever. I'm just letting you know I could use some reassurance right now because this is how I'm feeling. And, my brain's making these predictions, however you want to word it. I personally am fine with just saying what the truth. I can't say it's always very well received whenever I'm, take accountability for what's coming up for me. But I think that, again, I kind of think that's their shit and not my shit. I think that anybody who is pretty emotionally mature could handle you saying, this is how it felt to me. And so I just kind of need to get it out. And, I'd like to resolve this or whatever. I'm trying to think of a better way to say that because I don't know that that's very informative. I just think when you're communicating in an interpersonal relationship that it's better if you are taking accountability for your part in it, which your part is the way you've perceived the situation. So just like a lot of like, hey, I could be wrong, but this is what it feels like right now. So I just would like your thoughts about it, I guess is a simple way to say that. Because here's the deal. Your brain hates uncertainty, hates when information is missing. So this is why when something feels uncertain, you will sit and spin and spin and spin and spin trying to find certainty. Like, well, maybe it's this. Yeah, I bet that is it. Like just you're predicting all of these things, just trying to figure out what you can latch onto as a truth, as something certain. And that is all just your brain and the way it's designed. So if you can understand that and learn, using those grounding techniques that I've taught for anyone who hasn't heard me say this, the traditional grounding methods don't work for me. So I have to go start naming rapid fire things that I see in front of me just to kind of get me out of my head and into the moment. But that's why your brain does that. It hates uncertainty. It's just looking for something certain. And it can do that by predicting a lot of things and then you choosing which one is the most likely of the predictions. But again, the facts haven't changed usually. You've got whatever those facts were for you to spin around on. They haven't changed just because you spent all this time in your head overthinking it. So this is why we do a lot, why we say a lot of don't analyze and pathologize other people's behavior because you can't get the certainty you're looking for by doing that. And that is what your brain is doing, is trying to figure out why they did that thing and what should I do and what does it all mean? And we're going to get to kind of what to do for yourself. But here's the catch. It's usually filling it in using your oldest emotional experiences, not your newest ones. So all that programming, even from, let's say, 1 year old, 2 years old, 5 years old, 12 years old, that's the information that it's drawing from when it's trying to find certainty by making a prediction. It's not using new information. So that's why when we work on our wounding or healing or whatever, it can feel like you're arguing with your own instincts. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise real quick, calling separate the facts from the forecast. So I want you to draw 2 columns. If you're doing this while driving, hi Jenny, I'm going to ask that you do this later. Set an alarm or something to remind yourself to do this, okay? Okay, so in the facts column for this exercise, because I'm giving you examples, you've got they haven't texted back. You've got my boss asked to meet. My friend seemed quiet. Or we're on a trip with extended family and a couple of people seem to spend most of their time outside away from the larger group. That's a good fact. Okay, and then in the forecast column, I want you to write, they're leaving me. I'm getting fired. They are mad. I did something wrong. Which column is creating your anxiety? Do you think it's the fact column or the forecast column? That was just for dramatic effect. Okay, so obviously it's the forecast. The story, the meaning, the judgment is all in that forecast. Do you know any of those things for certain? No, you don't. You do not know those things for certain. That is not fact. That is forecast. The things that are fact is that they haven't texted you back. They're not making eye contact when you see them, or they're not laughing around you as often. Whatever the things that we can overthink, those are the facts. The way we're filling in the blanks, that's forecast. That's us predicting. That's us looking for certainty. So the goal is not to stop making predictions. Like, that's going to happen no matter what. Your brain's always going to predict. The goal is just to give it newer information and experiences to predict from. That's how we, when you hear us talk about rewiring neural pathways, that's what we're talking about. By being intentional and challenging the forecast, you can then rewrite it, and it will pull from newer information the next time. Every time you challenge the forecast, challenge those predictions, you're now giving it the ability to pull from other experiences, newer ones. Because healing isn't about deleting the past. It's about expanding the data set. Much of what's wrong with the way we're interacting with the world is the wounding that was created so long ago. And that being the way that our brain is perceiving the world around us still. So we're just trying to give it a lot of new information to pull from when we're interacting. So just remembering, like, maybe your thoughts aren't facts. Maybe they're not always intuition. Maybe they're just your nervous system making its best guess based on an old version of you. And if that's true, then every safe relationship, every repaired conflict, every boundary that was respected, every moment you were accepted without performing becomes new evidence, not just for your mind, but for your nervous system. Healing isn't convincing yourself that the world is safe. It's giving your brain enough new experiences that eventually it starts predicting safety instead of danger. Okay, so actionable takeaway. What I want you to take away from this. So I want to try to be better about this because, again, when I was starting on a self-help journey back in 2017, I could hear all these things and then I'd be like, okay, how does that stop me from yelling at someone or whatever, So here are some reminders. When you start to think, I've got notes I've been referring to this whole time. So when you start overthinking others' behaviors, I want you to remember, you are only responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If they are upset with you, it's their responsibility to tell you. If someone's upset with you, that's their responsibility to communicate that, not for you to sit around and predict that they are and then try to fix that, which, let's be honest, most of us are not trying to fix it. We're just making these predictions and then fretting about it. And for me, I would allow it to make me mad because I didn't even do anything. Why would they be mad? Blah, blah. However you're dealing with that, yeah. Your responsibility isn't to mind read. Your responsibility is to notice what your nervous system is predicting, soothe it, and wait for actual information before deciding that you've done something wrong. So the next time you notice yourself overthinking someone's behavior, I want you to try two things. One, separate the facts from the forecast, the way we did earlier. They haven't texted me. They're not making eye contact. They don't touch me in the same way. They've been saying no to sex a lot. Whatever it is that you're overthinking, right? So what are the facts? And then whatever you're worried that those facts mean, whatever prediction that your brain is creating for that, whatever the forecast is, I want you to put those things in the forecast column. Chances are your anxiety isn't coming from the facts, it's coming from the forecast. And I want you to see which parts you have seen as forecast and remind yourself, I don't actually know if any of these things are true. So now I need to soothe my nervous system and then give your nervous system what it's actually asking for. Instead of trying to figure out what they're thinking, ask yourself, what does my nervous system need right now? Maybe it needs reassurance where you offer yourself, honey, you're not in trouble. Like, even if they are upset, that's okay. People get upset. We're worthy of love and belonging, and we can work this out. I talk to myself like that all the time. If you're not talking to yourself like that, you're missing out. But maybe you need a walk. Maybe you need a nap. I heard this saying, I've said this so many times, but if you feel like everybody hates you, you need a nap. If you feel like you hate everybody else, you need food. So, there are times when you actually do need to eat or take a nap or take a shower or take a walk. So, like, is this just like agitated energy? Like, what is this? A walk can help a lot of things. Now, it can also help you continue the overthinking. So, refer back to the grounding method and try to get your mind busy on something else. Maybe it needs to call a safe friend. You can do that. You can check in with a friend and have them remind you. I one time was having a thing where I just felt really forgotten. And so I texted my friend and I said, "Hey, can you remind me that I'm not forgotten and tell me like how you think about me when we're not connected?" I sure did. I sure did. And it was beautiful. It was actually a beautiful conversation. And just remind yourself, like, I'm not in trouble right now. I just don't have all the information yet. So I don't know what you think about this. Hope you liked it. Sorry I had to refer back to notes so much, but I was tired and I'm a yapper, so I'll be forgetting stuff. So anyway, I love you guys. Make sure you check out the Patreon. I have stuff there that I feel like is valuable. I've got a growing list of a growing audio library, which I really need to be working on more. Ad-free episodes, all the things. But more than that, please make sure that you're subscribing, rating, commenting, leaving reviews, things like that, because that helps expand to a wider audience. And I'm pushing for the top 3% right now, and I'm at the top for 5%. So, but I appreciate you guys. And I would also really appreciate you sending the podcast to one person this week. That would be chill, especially someone that you feel like would benefit from listening to this episode. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally Unavailable. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.